Welcome back to the DNA Pest Control Podcast with your hosts, Aaron.
And Daniel.
Thank you, Aaron. Today is unfortunately the last episode on Pest World.
That's okay. It's been a fun ride.
That was good. Yeah, I think I even threw you off a little bit. So day 3, Pest World, last day, Friday. Do a little quick recap. For everybody who hasn't ever been to Pest World, you haven't listened to our episodes on Pest World, you can go back and listen to all the ones that we've done. I haven't missed a year, other than when they did the virtual for COVID.
Ooh.
I didn't do that because they wanted to screw everybody and charge the same price for a virtual conference. I didn't do that one. And then besides that, we only skipped, I think there was 2 in the middle from when we first went in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Besides that, I haven't missed one. Been to all of them, and I think you have too.
Yeah, 3 for 3 since I've been here in the industry.
Yeah, so that's perfect. Good content, good things. They do classes, they have an expo, they have all the new equipment that comes out. Just a quick recap. They do a Monday. It's Monday through Friday. The bulk of this stuff, actually, Monday's typically all the NPMA crap that they do. Their presidents, past presidents, all that stuff. So if you're not a part of that, you don't need to go. Then you have Tuesday, which is the opening of the expo. It's the biggest day they have for the expo. And then from there, Wednesday, your expo, then classes. Thursday, expo classes. Friday, very small expo. Mostly, I don't think anyone even goes on that day. They're probably recovering from, drinking too much the prior night. It's like every expo. I think everyone I've ever been to, they all have it. So you don't typically get people involved on that last day, but then more classes. And for us, it was all heavy classes on the last 2 days. It says day 3, but it's day 3 for us. It was actually technically day 5 in Pest World.
True.
But it was a heavy class day. So I think this episode may be a little bit shorter than the other episodes, but we'll just jump right into the classes. So what was your class? First class of the day?
The first class is the one we actually did together, which is a software company that we're going to implement on the business side, which we talked a little bit about it on not the last episode, but the previous one. But it was creating proposals that close more deals and take minutes to put together by Smarter Launch. So this is a class that Danny and I took together. We actually found this opportunity from a networking event from Gary from Cinch. So thanks, Gary, for listening. But we ended up just talking to this guy, and he has a software system, and we'll dive more into it maybe in a further episode or kind of in the class itself. But it's basically a way that we're going to increase revenue on the estimate, the rodent side, the specialty treatment side, pretty drastically and right away.
Smarter Launch. They did. We did dive in quite a bit about what it looks like on the past episode, so maybe I won't jump too much into that. But essentially, it helps your guys if they're doing any sales, and it's not your typical sales platform, right? It's not your door-to-door platform. That's not what that is. It's really giving structure to what it looks like. Is essentially we're going out and doing a service. We'll do AC, heating and air, because actually the company that we used for a job, they had this same type of style where they could offer every line item. Here's your insulation. Here's your new duct work. Here's if you wanted us to do something special, a spray on, whatever, and they lined it up so you had your options on everything,
like a dealership.
Like the dealership. I gave that out there too. I gave that example. It's just to cover it. It's just to make sure that your guys, it's making it dummy proof, making it super simple, right? And they just went in and talked about really what that's done and how that's really amped up a lot of the other pest control businesses that have already been using it, and kind of some of the other software that ties in with it, because they already link with quite a few different software companies.
Correct. They're already integrated with field routes.
Mhm.
And the cool thing is, we talked about on one of the last episodes that you get your huge companies like MGK, Field Routes, whoever's BASF, where they have a booth and they have a class. This year, what was really cool is a lot of these, smaller entities like, Pest Posse and Smarter Launch, not only did they have a booth explaining what happened, they actually had a class. So the cool thing is, a lot of people in that class had stopped by the booth and talked to, I mean, we talked to Bryson, he was great about it, but they may have talked to a number of sales reps. So everybody in there was essentially getting a second demo, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and they just went in further into what the demo, yeah, and it really was a demo class, actually, now that you say it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
literally what it was, is it wasn't
Smart.
it wasn't them trying to necessarily push the product. I mean, demos are that way, but it wasn't a whole
Hmm.
sales push. The idea was, hey, this is what we do. This is how it works. This is who it integrates with. Also, this is they integrate with another finance company. So if people can't pay that, they can do the 3-minute application and get the funds provided right then and there.
Hmm.
Um, so there's so many little things, but this is, what we talk about even on day 2 of Pest World. This is the importance of going and expanding your knowledge, right? Go and
Yeah.
learn something. How would anybody ever know about this unless it was put out on a platform like this and somebody's listening, or you're actually going, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So, yeah, Smarter Lunch that was a good one. That was actually another really good one. And yeah, we didn't walk out of that one early.
No, we didn't. We stayed the whole time. So that was
That
good.
one, that
Yeah.
was a full class.
Hmm.
Let's see, did I miss something on Smarter Launch? Anything else we wanted to add on that?
No, we dove pretty deep into it. That was just the class that we took together. That was the first class of the day that we took. Because, I mean, maybe a little bit before that, when we got into the expo, because that class was from 1 to 2. I
Mhm.
think we got in the expo maybe 11 or 12. We kind of trickled in after a late morning, and the expo was already destroyed. Like there were booths coming out, people leaving, everyone was getting back on their plane.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see that Friday's kind of like a closing date, but there were still really good classes, which that was one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, what was your, second class?
Second class is probably my favorite class of this pest world. So it was understanding the ins and out of bat management.
Okay.
So this class was put on by a guy, Brent Scott. He's the owner operator of Mainline Bat Guy, and he's on the East Coast dealing with different kinds of bats. Here in California, specifically Sacramento area, up the hill, we do have a little bit of a bat issue. Certain comes in different waves, it comes in different frequencies, whether it's businesses or homes. But the awesome thing is he really broke it down for somebody who's never really been into bat management, or for at least where we sit on the pest control side. We do a little bit of an exclusion and we do some follow-ups, but we really haven't dove deep into understanding kind of what it really means to manage bats, which this class was phenomenal. So one of the few things that I took, and I'll kind of try to shorten it because there was so much content, but
Yeah.
he went over like the different exclusion materials, what to do and what not to do, the customer communication, the actual materials using in these exclusion points. Where is it going to cause a fire hazard or a safety hazard? Is it actually going to work? Something I really appreciated about it is he said, right when we got in, he was like, if you guys are using foam, initially without any other exclusion, any other tools, without doing the blanketed netting or the bat cones, he said, you guys are killing the bats, killing the bats. And it was just like kind of a silence over the room, because it was like everybody was looking at each other like, I'm kind of using foam in here, you
Yeah.
know. And for at least what we do on the pest control side of the business is, when we inspect a home that has bat issues, we're looking where they're getting in, where they're getting out. We attach a bat cone on there and we exclude all the other entry points, so that way they can funnel out. After a few days, we actually seal up that place permanently, making sure that we don't trap anything in there so it dies. But the cool thing is he was actually giving us tips on like what to do if it's poorly built, like brick concrete, or like a brick fireplace going up to the roof where it doesn't meet the eave joint properly, or certain eave pockets, what materials he's used that he's liked. Because for those of you who have done bat management and a lot of wildlife work, there were tons of slides and information on the layered like fabric mesh. And he was going into that. And I've seen that in bat management, but he was actually going into the premise of it, of like how it actually is a cheaper and much more effective option. Because when I see that, we're so used to just putting a bat cone on, sealing around it, letting them flow out. But now it kind of opened my eyes to say, hey, on some of these like apartments or commercial buildings, when you have tons of bat issues, like we got to get creative to actually get rid of it, and not just seal it up and trap them in there or kill them, because they're protected, but actually do it in a proper way that's going to resolve the issue quickly. And not only that, but being able to explain it to the customer too, because when I was first getting into bat work, I knew that it was like, hey, bats are in that eave pocket, they're getting in here, we can put them out, and that was basically the extent of my knowledge on it. But sitting in this class, it kind of opened my eyes on how to actually like understand what bats are looking for, what bats do, how to exclude them, how to do the follow-up, even do recurring services on that for follow-up. So a lot of great information on that one.
No, that's awesome, because I can even go back to an older guy that was doing a lot of bat stuff up the hill. And how they would do the bat work was essentially they would get up into an attic, spray something really stinky
To flush them out.
to flush them out. And most of the time it was just pesticides, actually. It wasn't even anything good. So they were probably killing thousands and thousands of bats. And that's if you flush all of them out. Because how do you get into some of these attics and all those spaces? I mean, they may not even been able to do that, and they're just killing everything. So it's cool to see what we've evolved to, and even hearing that now. Excuse me, and that guy putting all that information out there.
Yeah,
Like, hey, this is how you properly do it with reducing the amount of bats that you're killing, because bats are actually really good.
they are.
And that's why they're protected in California. They keep the insect population down, especially mosquitoes. They're doing so much good. Even the droppings, the
Yeah,
back, it's super good for plants. I mean, and everything. So, killing them isn't really the best way in some of those species, but it's just cool to hear that and actually like, hey, this is the best way to do it. But once
yeah.
again, back knowledge, you got to get that out there. Because if you're just going up to an attic and trying to flush them out, you're going to kill a lot of stuff.
No, exactly. And it was cool because even people who have done bat work for a while and people who are just getting into it, he really laid it out like in a 4-step process. It was like inspection and estimation. It's like you can't do it over the phone. You actually have to get some pictures, whether you have a drone or you have a boom lift or a ladder. So inspection, communication with the client, exclusion. And then the fourth thing, which I really appreciated, he was like, you have to include a feces remediation in your bid, for bats.
Oh,
It's not like a one and done thing. He was like, you must include it with the exclusion, and I can't remember a lot of the specifics on why, other than, just the bat guano. And especially, he showed us these like nightmare situations with like a mountain of bat droppings in an attic and the fire hazards that it places, especially if you don't use the right material to back it. And I was like, that's like a no brainer, but nobody talks about it.
well, I can put in a little input on the bat guano. Bat guano is actually very unhealthy for us.
Okay.
Uh, so there can be a lot of bacteria and viruses and things like that. So I don't know the specifics of what we can get from it, but if you're breathing that in, it is actually terrible for you. It's not good in that sense. So the bat management side and getting them out of an attic is really good for the people who are living in that house, because of all the bat guano that could be building up in their attic. Not only the fire hazard side, but just the bacteria and everything else. It's not like rodent droppings. If it's just a roof rat, whatever, you get allergies and that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like the most that you can get from some of those. And then the most extreme from rodents is the hentavirus.
That's
And that's
so
really,
extreme.
and that's that's like the extreme side of it. And that's in rare cases, at least where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where bats can have a lot more. And there's more to it on the health side of things. I know that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
dang,
So, just closing comments. The cool thing about it is one other thing he brought up was when you're doing these estimates, like even with rodent estimates and other stuff, it's very apparent when there is a contractor deficiency. It's
Mm,
like when an Eve pocket's very poorly built or there's a huge gap. And he actually, which I appreciated, he went into the side of it on the sales side, which I agree with. I've never done before. It's I never shit on anybody's other work. I just talk about what we can do to fix it.
yeah.
And he said that's what you have to focus on in these situations, because you can go up in these Eve pockets and see it's like literally it's like this wide, like all the way down 6 feet, and you see tons of sebum, you see tons of droppings, and customers are asking you, well, like, well, why the hell was it built that way? And you have to be honest, but at the same time, you don't have to just trash the contractor or the home builder. It's like, look, sometimes when these homes are being built, there are gaps that are still there. But the great thing is, once we do this exclusion and then we do the follow up and get the droppings out, you're not going to have an issue anymore. So it was
Yep.
cool. He kind of took it from the actual bat exclusion, identification, inspection side, all the way down to like the sales and explain to the customer and the follow up. So, like I said, best class I took this Pest World. So I really appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, for mine, I can't talk. I'll actually squash. I'll put my I'll put my two classes together because I don't have a ton of input on them. One of them was hire every day, and the concept behind it is you want to always look for the best talent possible,
Mhm.
and you don't want to turn that talent away just because you're not technically hiring right now.
Mm.
So and that's kind of the gist of the whole class. He went more into it, essentially hiring. The only problem that I had with it is, for anybody who's in a younger company, smaller company, be careful because you can't overhire or you eat all your profits and then you can't do anything, or you start to go into the negative and you start, but if you find someone that's better and you can replace somebody, that's what you need to do when you're hiring. And so keep that in mind when someone says hire every day, or, yeah, it's a lot easier when you're pulling in, tens of millions of dollars,
Sure.
and you can bring on a tech, and 50,000 isn't going to kill you, right? It's not hurting you in any way. It doesn't affect that bottom line, that, greatly. So, that's what I pulled from it is you got to keep your eyes and ears open. Obviously, look for the best people for the best position. And if you find someone better, it's hard, it's difficult sometimes, but you need to let people go to bring in that better talent to get you
Mhm.
to the next level. The
100%.
one after, yeah, yeah, yeah. The one after that was HR compliance. It was cool. It talked about pregnant women, which was perfect because we have one right now. Well, not anymore. She had her baby.
Yeah.
But it went into the laws and everything behind that. And then it jumped into a whole nother state, which I
Mhm.
was like, cool. We're talking
Love it.
about, and I wish I knew what state, like South Carolina or something weird. It had nothing to do with even Denver, which I would have been like,
Yeah.
hey,
That's odd.
yeah, it makes more sense if you were in Denver and you talked about the HR compliance here,
Hmm.
or just talk federally on HR compliance. That would have been nice.
Yeah.
Um, So I ended up leaving that class early, and I did other things. So, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't a terrible one. It just, as it got deeper into the class, they kind of veered to different states that we're not a part of, and so it made no sense to be there.
Makes
But what
sense.
they were talking about was good information, and especially talking about pregnant women and what you can do and what you should do, and the things there with HR. It was good on that side.
Yeah.
Hey, what was yours? What was your last one?
That class was
Oh, was that? Did you only
that
do
was my
3?
last one. Yeah.
Oh, you
We had
didn't do
smarter lunch. I had bat management, and that was it.
you didn't have a 3rd class?
Nope, not on Friday.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah, Friday we met up after the bat management class. I was working for my laptop, and we actually went to the closing party thing. But that was it on that day.
Uh, Okay, cool. Well, then let's talk a little bit about that. So Pest World, every Pest World, they have a closing out party at the end
Mhm.
after all the classes are done, depending on where the venue's at. Is this one was actually pretty cool. I'll give it to
I
them.
agree.
Yeah, MGK did a really good job. They put it all on. They had like a big bar thing in the middle. They had hors d'oeuvres, and they had, waiters, waitresses walking around. It's like the
Mhm.
movies, like what you see in the movies. They were handing out all these little snacks here and there. They had like a whole hoodie, or not hoodie, beanies and hats station,
Mhm.
and you can go get free swag. They had cups there too that you could get. So it was a pretty cool party. They had a band as well.
I don't know what they were singing, but it was cool.
Yeah, no,
They were yodeling. Yeah.
well, if you went, you will understand the joke. If you didn't go, you're not going to know what we're talking about. She was singing some language. I don't know what it was, but it was interesting.
I will say the party was really cool. I had a lot of fun. So what they did is they, like Daniel said, they had like a bar in the middle. There was all four sides that you can walk up to, and then they had like six little like mini bars like around, and then in between all of this, they had like all these waiters, waitresses walking around with just plates of just like sandwiches and food, and you have like vendors from MGK walking up and giving like extra drink coupons. They're giving out like extra merch. They're trying to connect. So it was really cool too, because Daniel and I had a couple people approach us. We had this one operator of a termite company. He was like, "Hey, you guys were in that smarter launch class," and he was just talking and like just the day-to-day stuff with his guys, and we exchanged info and did that, and we ended up running in the pest posse for a little bit. We ended up running the people that we saw in that from these classes, and that's a really cool thing about Pest World is obviously you're there for the classes and the content, but like we were saying last episode, the connections and the networking you actually make is so crucial and so valuable, especially if you're trying to do what we're doing, like grow this exponentially, like for many, many years, because you
Mhm.
just get so many tips and resources that you wouldn't have had before if you didn't put yourself out there. So I had a great time.
Yeah, yeah, and I never really went to those, at other pest worlds. I never went to the ending parties and things like that. I kinda stayed away from that. I went to the classes, I went to the expo, and I walked away. Um, but now going into that and staying and being a part of that and seeing people and really networking on that side, it is you're right, you get to meet so many different people. They're throwing out different stuff, especially once those drinks are flowing, people start opening up even more and giving
Mm-hmm.
out probably too much information, which I'm okay with. I'll take it.
100% every day.
I'll pick their brain, I'll let them give me all their secrets. Hey, that's totally fine. But that is the positive behind it is, you get to start to talk to other people who are in the industry going through a lot of the same stuff you are, or even getting into newer things. And it's cool to kind of give them some input and help out too. Because at the end of the day, they're probably not your direct competition.
No.
And even if you give them some good tips and you move into that state, you can now buy them. And if you acquire their company, they're already doing what you're doing. So it
Mm-hmm.
makes it so much easier. So when people get kind of weird about that info and all that, it's like, hey, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. We're all here, we're all doing the pest control. If you start doing what I'm doing, it's just going to be easier transition if there's, a merger,
Yeah.
an acquisition, right? It just makes it so much better.
Yeah.
Um, but that's Pest World. That's Pest World in a nutshell. I hope you guys enjoyed these couple of episodes that we threw out on Pest World, uh, Denver, 2024.
Yeah. So it was my third and Daniel's sixth, seventh.
Man, let's count it. Let's see. I went to Washington. My very first one was
Mm-hmm.
Washington.
Yeah.
I did one in San Diego. I've done one in Orlando. I've done one in Las Vegas. Uh, we did one in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
We did one in Denver.
Six.
And
And then
where's
Hawaii, seven.
Oh, Hawaii. Yep, that's right. So I've done 7.
Nice. Yeah. So
Pretty
now we
good.
have a combined 10 years of Pest World. So,
Well, yeah.
but no, it
There
was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So if you guys didn't listen to the past episodes, make sure to tune back in. Even from the past Pest Worlds, if you type it in, whatever platform you're listening to us on, if you type in Pest World in our DNA Pest podcast, it'll have Pest World 2023, Pest World 2024, 20, you know what I mean? We'll have all that in there so you can kind of dive through and go in. And it was definitely different experiences each year. And we took a lot of different things, but still a ton of great content,
Yep.
you know. As we're getting back into it, it's obviously good to get back rolling, dropping out 2 episodes a week. So please, guys, send in any questions you want answered for the end of the month Q&A. If you want to be a guest on the show, there's plenty of ways to reach out to us. You have our website, dnapestpodcast.com. You have our Facebook group, you have our YouTube, and you have our Instagram. But thank you again for listening to the DNA Pest Control Podcast.